I'm working with this pot today that I had in my stash. I worked on it a while back. I covered the whole thing with Dry Deck's lightweight spackle, and then I let that dry and covered the whole thing with Paint Couture's farmhouse linen and sanded it down. I wasn't happy with it because it has some brush strokes, and so I just set it off to the side. Well, today we're going to work with it. I have this beautiful lace stamp and some stone gray ink, both by IOD. And the lace stamp is from their latest spring release that came out last Thursday. I am so excited to work with this, and I always place my orders through Aunt B's Attic, and her prices are just amazing. But you know what? They come UPS, and I placed the order on Thursday and I had it by Saturday morning. That nothing beats that, right? Especially when you have new things that you want to work with. So I'm trying to make sure that I get this nice and juicy. And I'm all like, I was nervous about this project because we're working on a round surface. I hadn't done that before. And I'm working with a new stamp I hadn't used. And of course, I went over it with some 220 grit sandpaper, and you do that with all your new stamps. That just gets off any extra, uh, I think it's silicone that might be on there, and your images come out more clear if you do this. So it's an important step. So once I get my stamp all inked up, I just set it along the top. And this pot is a little wonky. You'll be able to tell more in the end result. So I get my stamp on and I am like holding my breath through the whole thing, trying to keep one hand on the stamp at all times while moving the other. And I could slightly feel it like shifting. Oh, goodness, guys. This was so hard. And so the important step really is just to keep one hand still. And as soon as you feel like you've gone over the whole stamp, you're going to want to lift up on it like real quick. That way you don't drag your stamp over your image. Just like that. And so I'm happy with how this looks. It's a little imperfect, but this is where I mess up. Okay, I added my stamp and I added it upside down and tried to clean it off and wipe it back. Then I got frustrated and tried to wash all of it off and then sand it. And I was like, oh man, I am messing this up so bad. So I re ink it and go back over the spot that I did last. And this is what it looks like. And I was like, oh gosh, just leave it alone, Nikki. I didn't want to repaint the whole thing. So I just continued working. And you know what? I love this pot. So I'm going to apply this transfer. This one is called Flora Greca, and it's filled with birds and beautiful greenery and florals. I love this. You know what? I'm going to say that I love all of them because they're all just so beautiful. I didn't bother having you watch me do all the transfers because it's just so redundant, but look at how beautiful that is. And this is another thing I haven't done is working on a curved surface with transfers before. I did all the little slip marks all over my transfers and I still found it really difficult. And I had cracking and all of that. And I don't think that that can be prevented. I think that's just part of the process. But look at how beautiful this is. I think this might be thistle. Then I added this beautiful bee. I just think it's so sweet. And then this butterfly. I think IOD needs a transfer booklet just filled full of birds and bees, but mainly just bees because I love them. And then I took out my Ephemeral Mélange transfer book and just added this beautiful design to the side. And I thought the purple in it matched perfectly. Lastly, I'm going to seal in the whole thing with some Sweet Pickins dark wax and I went over the whole surface and let it sit for a little bit and then wiped it all back. And this brush works perfectly for this. If you can find some inexpensive makeup brushes, they work amazing for wax. I got this tip from my friend Kendra at Late Night Creations. I know I had my mishap with my stamp along the top, but guys, this is so beautiful. What do you think of this? I love it. Dollar Tree now carries these big 12 by 16 cutting boards for $5. They are so nice. They're bamboo and they match the size of IOD's Madeline transfer book. So we're going to cover the whole thing in ivory chalk paint that I get at the Dollar General. I do 2 coats of this and I love this chalk paint. It's like a light pink and it has a very good coverage. I'm actually really happy with this, but my favorite of their chalk paints is their black. It's just such a nice matte black. So I let that dry real well and I go over the whole thing with the Extreme Garden Satin. This is going to seal in our chalk paint and set the stage for our transfers. So you're going to miss some of this. This is Madeline transfer booklet. It's absolutely gorgeous. And I'm going to show you the images here because somewhere along the lines I didn't hit record. And so the transfer that I'm using is almost identical to this one. And I am in love with this transfer booklet. Look at all these images, guys. The florals and the birds are just so beautiful. They're unlike any other transfers I've seen before. And the birds are quite unique in this one. And I love that they have like this garland you can add to anything and the bouquets of flowers. Let me know what you think of this book. I would be curious to know which one is your favorite because I I have to say all of these are just they have my heart. They really do. I mean, look at these birds. They're phenomenal. They're just so unique. And with every new release, a lot of us say, oh, they outdid themselves this time. IOD just knocked it out of the water. But they really did with this one. And so I chose my image quite similar to this one and transferred the whole page onto this bamboo cutting board. And guys, look at this. I think this is absolutely beautiful. I sealed everything in with some sweet pickins, clear wax, and I add a little bit of white wax around the sides. I know you can't see it here, but I love this. And then I took this cutting board that I had in my stash. I got it at like an antique store, although I don't think this is antique, but it is old. I got it for $1, and so I'm going to sand a lot of this down. This rooster is about to get an upgrade, so I'm going to work with some milk paint. I'm going to use 1 tablespoon of water to 1 tablespoon of milk paint. Mix it up. I'm going to set it aside for a minute before I start painting this. This color is called Creamy. It was on sale in December, so I got a big bag of it, and I love like ivories and creamy colors, like buttery colors. This is perfect without like having a lot of yellow in it. I didn't prep my surface. I'm going right in with my milk paint. I'm going to give it 2 coats. I did just one side on camera and I did the other side off camera. And I love this milk paint. I'm going to get lots of good crackle with this. And one way to get a lot of crackle is to go in with your embossing gun. And that's exactly what I did and used my Cricut tool here to scrape off some of the paint. I could also wet distress it, but this is what I used. And I'm happy with all the crackle and chipping that I got with this. I just love everything to look old and vintage. And of course, if you don't, you could totally skip this step and not even use any milk paint at all. And so when you use milk paint, the end result is going to be different. You can use the same surface, prep it the same way, but your results are always going to be different. That's the beauty of milk paint. And one thing that I've noticed is as I'm painting and getting near the bottom of my milk paint, the bottom is thicker and that cracks so much more than when I started working with it. So that thicker batter does offer more crackle. And so once it's dry, I go over everything with extreme guard and satin. And you are going to miss some of this one as well. I don't know what was with me on this day, but I'm going to show you the Saint QUEN transfer booklet. It is just so beautiful. I say this about everything. It's 8 by 12 sheets. And so I do end up taking some images. I'm not going to pull just one sheet from this, but look at all these beautiful roses and florals. And it has these beautiful butterflies and peaches. And I'm really loving this toil style illustration. And it gives that classic old European country style charm and these laurels. And this also has beautiful French calligraphy, almost something you'd find in an antique book. And so I end up choosing some of this French calligraphy and also a beautiful rooster, and then cover the whole thing with more dark wax. And I think this is so beautiful and timeless. And I love my rooster replacement for this one. All right, for this project, I had this little piece of wood in my stash, and I'm going to go over it with Fusion's mineral paint in the color Casement. And I'm just doing a really light coat here because I don't want to lose that natural knot and that little opening in the wood. It already looks like a tiny bird's home, so I'm kind of working around it and letting that shine, especially since we're going to add a little bird transfer right off to the side. And this is called Flora Greca. We had used this one in our first project. And I'm positioning him so it looks like he's sitting right outside his little doorway, like he's just discovered it and decided to make it his home. And I'm going to wrap it around the sides here just so it has like a more natural look. And then I'm going to add this butterfly to the upper left-hand corner. And I thought it would be nice to add a stamp. So I'm just going to add this flower from the Meadow Lark stamp booklet. This has birds and flowers. It's just so pretty. And so I'm adding this to the lower left-hand side, keeping one hand steady while moving the other. And I sealed everything in. After I heat sealed my ink, I wanted to make sure that didn't smudge, but I used some extreme guard. And here's a quick recap of everything that we made today. What do you think of these projects? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for spending time with me today. Until the next one, bye.